Good morning. Welcome today. We are thrilled that you're
Just think about that. Simply put, the black middle class would not exist were it not for black colleges and universities. I hope that our property. So in short, yes, we've witnessed and experienced a lot of progress, but the struggle continues and much work remains. As a reminder that what we are undergoing today has a long history, and this is not the first time we've faced this kind of adversity, and that our tasks have not been completed. I'd like us to close with the immortal Negro National Anthem, written by the poet James Weldon Johnson over 125 years ago. He wrote it in 1900. I'll talk about the book, but I wanted to provide some context for the book. And for students in particular to understand what this great university and HBCUs in particular have meant. The last chapter of the book is about the future of historically black institutions. And I've been studying and caring about and doing what I could to inform and to strengthen and to ensure that these great institutions will be around for a long time. I've been doing this for over 30 years. And so on this occasion, during Black History Month, I wanted to provide some context to the book. And so on the back of your program is the Negro National Anthem. And so we are going to sing the Negro National Anthem. And there's got to be a vocalist in here who's got a better voice to start off than yours truly. So who wants to lead this for us? Dean, you're standing up.
Oh, no. Dude, we'll play it out so Dr.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Okay, so we're gonna play.
We may have somebody who wants to lead for us.
So they're coming on now. Ready?
Yeah.
All right. So let's stand up, please. Much more and the next generation of students and faculty and future ones to continue to build on the legacy of Southern University. Thank you and God bless, and may God bless Southern University. Thank you very much. Briefly talk about the book and entertain questions, but I truly am honored to be here. This is a special place, and trust me, students, you're getting a special kind of education that you perhaps appreciate more later than you do right now. Which is not to say you're not grateful now, but the time will come when you will reflect back and think about the faculty and staff and the folk who have dedicated their lives to being here. They too have options, but they've chosen to be here because they have a calling, they have a mission that they can fulfill here in ways that they cannot at other institutions. So I spent about half of my career at large research universities, but I always look for a chance to come back and work at an historically Black institution where I thought I could make a difference. You can give $1 million to Tulane or LSU, and it'll have some influence. Give $1 million to Southern University, it has a much bigger impact. And the same is true for the women and men who have dedicated their lives, their careers to being here. And so even when I work at majority institutions, I kept an eye on what was going on at historically Black colleges and universities. And we saw an uptick in interest in Black colleges after the murder of George Floyd. Over $500 million was donated by Mackenzie Scott, just one person alone. And so, companies, corporations began looking around to see what they could do to help our schools. But we knew that that would not last. I'm old enough to have witnessed, maybe not the murder of George Floyd, but the lynching of Emmett Till and Mac Charles Henry, the beating of John Lewis. I mean, there are countless others that I'm not going to recount today. So I was a bit cynical about that philanthropy, but it's come to pass. And so now we see even greater threats, assaults on DEI. And so part of the book is about, much of the book is about my career, which paralleled the civil rights movement. I was at Grambling with Dean Perry on April 4th, 1968, when Dr. King was assassinated. I can recall I had a small transistor radio. I was on my way to an African politics class. I brought the news to that class, April 4th, 1968. So my career, as I said, paralleled the civil rights movement. It also paralleled the Vietnam War. I'm a Vietnam War vet. Indeed, I was discharged from Vietnam September 14th, 1970, 2 weeks before I began graduate school at Northwestern in Evanston, Illinois. And so much of the book is about my career that paralleled those times from a period when affirmative action was just starting, and now when efforts to dismantle DEI are actively underway. The book came out in June of 2024. But if you read the book, you note that I anticipate what is occurring right now. And so for students in particular, our generation, we still are doing what we can. But our time is short. I want you to just pay attention to what's going on in this country and around the globe. I heard, as many of you did last night and this morning, that the president is proposing to remove 2 million people from the Gaza Strip and make it the Riviera on the Nile, so to speak. Displaced 2 million people. How many of you know who Ralph Bunche was? I wish I'd seen more hands from people who look a little bit younger than those of you who raised their hand. I'm going to ask you too to just go back and find out who Ralph Bunche was, political scientist. He was the person who negotiated the deal that created the state of Israel. A Black man, Ralph J. Bunche. Find out who he is. And again, as we look at the sweep of history, you think, this man did this before the civil rights era for another people. And we look at what's now coming to pass. And so for much of my career, I've mentored people. Yesterday, one of my mentees introduced me actually Monday, a book talk. One of my mentees is the new president of Prairie View A&M University. in walking around the campus, I saw the name. As a matter of fact, it's in her conference room. There's a picture of a Professor J.B. Cade. I suspect that that's the same Cade. Cade. Is that something? He's at Prairie View. It's at Prairie View. And so, you know, we're connected in ways that we oftentimes don't realize. But I've devoted, since I've retired, my efforts to working with aspiring leaders, some of whom want to be presidents or provosts, or chief student affairs officers, Dr. Walton. And I enjoy that. And another passion of mine, I like classic and antique cars, so I go to those museums. I like presidential libraries, so I visit those. But I also enjoy visiting Black college campuses. I visited over half of them, from Maryland to Texas. I had not been on Prairie View's campus before. But I am just so deeply indebted to the women and men who have the courage to devote their lives and their careers to make a difference, particularly for young people, because I do think that education has a huge role to play. It has played a huge role, must continue. And I just have great admiration for the faculty and staff who come to work each day trying to make a better life for our students. You are our future. And while you're here, enjoy your college experience, but know your history. Know who, as Maya Angelou would say, paid for you to be here, and understand what your obligation is to ensure that others can do the same and will have this opportunity. I'm going to stop there, and I'll be happy to take any questions. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. Happy to respond to any questions. Yes, sir.
Yeah, if you were to write a supplementation of your book, what would you specifically say about the adjustment?
Well, number one, I hope it doesn't come to pass. I've been, frankly, I guess what I would say would depend on how we respond. And by we, I mean all of us, not just elected officials in Washington or at the state level, but how we respond. I've frankly been concerned that we haven't heard, and maybe people are planning to say something. We've not heard, at least I've not heard any major pronouncements from the NAACP, the National Urban League. You know, I don't watch much Sullivan since November 5th because it's depressing. But I don't know what Reverend Al was saying. So it depends on how we respond. But you know what's interesting, if you live long enough, I talk about this book. You know, there are cycles to history. You're a historian. I'm a political scientist. So, you know, there are cycles to this. And trust me, this, as bad as things may seem, this is not the first time. And each time we've responded. And so I don't know what the response is going to be, but I do know, and I'm hopeful, and I do expect that there will be the sky's not going to fall. But we can't allow the clock to be turned back. And we've got to speak up and let people know that we're here. And we're at a different time. As I said, you know, I came up during the civil rights era. And there's nothing that we wouldn't do to fight what was going on. And so it remains to be seen. So I can't say what I would write, but I would hope that it would be something that is useful and positive. Thank you. Are there other? Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that social war is less important than LGBTQ and like class struggles, or do you think that they're plate?
Well, I think to some extent, the culture wars are closely related to class issues. Because I think that some people don't really understand the deep divide, the differential in income, in lifestyle, and in the human potential. And let me put it in more direct terms. In his last address to the nation, President Biden warned of the threat posed by an emerging oligarch. You don't know what that is, students. I want you to look at it. Yeah. Warned of the threat of a growing oligarch. And he's right. And he compared it to the speech that President Eisenhower gave this last address when he was leaving office and warned about the emergence of the military-industrial complex. And he was right. And so the people who are seemingly in charge today don't really understand. I mean, what's affecting you and me. Can't look into their hearts. I don't know if they really care, but they don't understand. But I do believe that they think that because they paid a lot of money, because they're very wealthy, that they're smarter than anybody else. They think they know more than anybody else. And they think that democracy is something that really does not matter. Now, one of the things that you should all be very proud of is that some university had, and it still has, but I know that it had one of the best departments of political science in the nation. Produced some outstanding political scientists. And I taught on that faculty in the 1970s. And so if you're paying attention to what's going on right now, you will understand that these folks who think that they have all the answers because they're wealthy, they are really way off base, but they're in power now. And so it remains to be seen, just how much influence they're going to have on the American people. I suspect, I don't know, that, and only time will tell, that I saw a picture of Vice President Harris when I walked into the building this morning. I was really, really proud to see it. But to think that the American people would return to office this man over this woman, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around that. I think having a very hard time. And I guess I'm not alone. That's a longer answer to your question than you probably wanted. I don't so. Yes. Put it a little bit closer. I'm a recovering academic. I'm wearing hearing aids now. Oh man, it's like you start giving the question. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Some background question. Comparing LSU's campus surrounding campus and overall community. I want to know what
you could do or should do and go about taking initiative to
how to encourage community.
implement in organizations.
You're referring to the campus or various surrounding campus?
Both.
Both. The court case of Plessy versus Ferguson. Plessy versus Ferguson ushered in an era of so-called serendipity. And in terms of resources. And that's another reason that I'm really proud of what Dr. Clark did, because at one time, the enrollment here rivaled that of Howard University. At one time, we had everything that Howard had, with the exception of the School of Medicine and Pharmacy and School of LA at one time. And so appropriations by the legislature were supposedly separate but equal, but we know that they really were not. And so that's the history. And so, several states have sued to achieve parity or equity with the majority institutions. The most recent big one is in the state of Tennessee, where the legislature looked at underfunding at Tennessee State, a land grant institution, compared to the University of Tennessee, and agreed that, $500 million. To my knowledge, the state of Maryland is the only one that has actually tried to close that gap. So that's the history. And so we have to depend in today's environment on our elected officials to ensure that the resources that this university gets enables it to be competitive. And with regard, so there's only so much that the president or the chancellor can do with regard to the periphery of the institution. So you got two issues here. One is legislative support, and the other is the ability of the university, to the extent that it can, to shape and influence what goes on around it. And I don't know if the university has a real estate foundation, which is an instrument that a number of colleges and universities use to acquire properties around the campus to deal with that sort of issue. But it's a multi-pronged effort, and takes a lot of time and energy and resources. But I get your question. But you get some historical inequities that have just not been addressed. And so until we, and this university is not alone in that, which doesn't make it any better. But I needed to put this in context. I mean, so this goes way, way back. And it's going to take a while to correct it. Yes.
First and foremost, my name is Emma Bradford Perry, and I'm the retired dean of this library, and I'm so proud being Dr. Cade over there. She is running this place so efficient, even better than I did. But what I wanted to say, you did an exceptional presentation, particularly as it relates to the students. And I'm so happy that you talked to the students the way that you did, because a lot of them need to know and understand the history and those that paid for them to be here. And we don't mean like in money. We mean in our lives and what they have to do in order for them to be enjoying what they are enjoying now. Right? Because you and I know that we could not go to white schools when we would go. So I wanted to just let you know, I appreciated how you spoke to them. And I also thank you from the bottom of my heart for mentioning my husband. That meant so much to me. Alvin and I went to school together, so we go way back. We used to shoot balls together. And I also wanted to thank the chancellor. Chancellor, you're doing a fabulous job over here. I'm not over here, but I hear through the grapevine. So all the students that are here too, and I want to tell, this was third and sit down, because I'm a big partner. When I first came to the library today, I ran into a young lady and we were on the elevator together. So when we got out, she said she's going to the engaged office. I said, well, I am too. And so I said, do you see, we're on the second floor. She said, oh, I know it's the second floor. I said, well, do you see the number 2 on the second floor? She said, yes, ma'am. I said, did you know that every floor in this library, there is, for the number that you see, 1, 2, 3, 4, it is a quote from President Barack Obama. And it's a different quote on each floor from your former president. She said to me, I've been in this library for 3 years. I never noticed that. I said, but now that you tell some of your students about this simple little things like that. She said she has looked at the floor numbers for 3 years, but she never read it to know that all of them were around. So students, be aware. And particularly, feel bad with what's going on now because it's going to impact you long after you. So thank you. You did a wonderful job.
Thank you. Well, I concur. I think, you know, I've said, many times that universities, like most organizations, require certain type of leadership at certain stages in their development. And being, Chancellor, you're the right man for this time. We're great, but thank you.
You have a question in the back?
Yes.
I'm gonna ask you, do you think there is a peace in our world? Do you think that it can accomplish this? So how?
Do I think that
There is such a thing as peace in our world?
peace?
Like in the world we live in, do you think there's a thing as peace? Do you think?
Well, I guess maybe there are pockets of it in certain parts of the world. But I do think that we're living in very perilous times. There's a lot of turbulence around the world. And this is not the only country that is experiencing this rise of conservatism. It's happening around the globe. Is there the potential for peace? I think there is. And when Ralph Bunche and others in the 1940s, after the end of World War II, were trying to change conditions and find peace through the Marshall Plan in Europe, through his efforts in the Middle East. They were genuine and they did their very best. But we're in a different time now because again, there's a conservative wave across the globe, and we're not alone, which is why I think for young people in particular, just you need to understand what's going on in this moment. This is not the first time, and I dare say it's not the last, but efforts to achieve peace, I think, never end. They're continuing. And the reason that the Second World War was supposed to be the war to end all wars. And it did not. After World War II, we had the Korean. Then we had Vietnam. Of course, we can look at what happened, smaller skirmishes in Central and Latin America since then. More recently, back to the Middle East. That is a hotbed right now. So I think how that gets resolved, I think what the president is proposing is not workable, doable, or reasonable. But I think peace is just something that we continue to work. Other questions? Yes.
Good morning, Dr. Schexnider. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Deanna Wright. I'm an associate professor and instructional librarian here at the library. But the question I have for you is, throughout your career, were there any pivotal moments or specific experiences that directly inspired you to make professions of Black men?
I can't think of anything in particular. Again, because I'm a big fan of professional development and trying to be helpful to aspiring leaders, I wanted to write something that would be useful to young professionals, particularly young Black professionals who think that they want to do this work. The chancellor will tell you that this is a 24/7 bone crushing, back breaking job. And because he does it so well, it appears that anybody can do it. But as we know, that's not true. People who are good at what they do make it seem effortless. So I wrote the book to try to help people understand what it entails and the commitment and the preparation. Some of which is through formal education and training, but a lot of which is through experience. And so that's the main reason I wrote the book. But, you know, along the way, I've had my stumbles. I've hit the glass ceiling more than once. I was fortunate to earn a PhD at the age of 28, so I started my career very, very early. At a time when there were very few people who looked like me on the campus, in the classroom of the places where I taught. I think of colleagues who were brilliant, who were denied tenure. And so there are lots of things that I recall that inspired me to continue despite the obstacles. And so that's another message in the book, you know, don't let anybody define you, don't let anybody stand in your way. Know what you want to do, and if you want to be a leader, be intentional about it, be purposeful about it. You know, accept the responsibility because you're really serious about it. And so I'm a guy who I look at my kindergarten pictures, and I was serious even then, and I haven't changed. And so
That's true.
Yeah, my wife sometimes says, "You're frowning." It's thinking, and it's a serious guy. So, but you got to be serious about this work. And serious about your career. It's nice to have a mentor or a coach. You have to assume responsibility for managing your own career. And that's another message in the book. So I try to share things that I think will be helpful with people in their careers. Yes.
Hello,
Hi.
I enjoyed the talk.
Thank you.
My name is Alvin Wilson, and I currently serve as the dean, interim dean of the graduate school here at Southern University. And it was interesting when you mentioned Plessy versus Ferguson. I had a conversation this morning with some of my colleagues about that, and centered around getting rid of separate but equal as a form of ethnic cleansing. And so it was interesting, and let me just give you a little background about myself. I'm a product of Scotch Branch High School, Clarendon County, Briggs versus Elliott. And many of my family was run out of South Carolina, Clarendon County, because they signed that petition to get equal, you know, it started with busing and all of this. But just to fast forward, it got me to thinking, is getting rid of separate but equal a form of ethnic cleansing? And I'm probably older than most here, so I know a little bit about segregation and what it really meant to really have to struggle, and we truly stand on the backs of our forefathers, our ancestors, Levy, Reverend Delaney, even a lot of folks don't know that Elijah Cummings was actually from Paxville, South Carolina, but got ran out of that area during that time of signing of that petition.
So your question again
It's centered around ethnic cleansing. And is getting rid of separate but equal another way of just increasing that move toward ethnic cleansing?
It's interesting. I honestly hadn't. That's the first time I
That was a discussion that we were engaged in, and it really got me to thinking.
Yeah. Well, I can see how separate but equal might be part of I can see how that, but getting rid of it, I don't see how that could lead to cleansing it. Eliminated separate but equal, but you know, we're still dealing with the vestiges of it. We're still dealing with the vestiges, the residual effects of separate but equal, which is regarding, I think, applicable question that was raised by the student. So I don't know. I do think it's something that we should think about. You know, I'm a bit of a cynic, and I think that a lot of the chaos that's occurring with regard to signing 100 executive orders in a matter of days it kind of reminds me of the Joker and the Batman. I mean, you create all this chaos all the time, and meanwhile, something else is going on that you really should be paying attention to, but you are not. You know, if you've seen Batman and you were the Joker, I mean, it's always something roiling the waters. So, I wonder, what's the real plan here? Because while you're looking here and putting in all these other fires, that something else is going on that you're missing. I don't know what that is, and we may find out, and it could be what you're getting at. I don't know. I think it's worth thinking.
Join me in thanking Dr. Schexnider. We will allow, ask Dr. Walton to fill up the closing remarks for us, but before he does, I want to acknowledge our Office of Academic Affairs, our Vice Chancellor, Dr. Young is present, along with Dr. Jackson and Dr. Meyer. Thank you so much, Dr. Walton.
Morning, or afternoon now, to everyone, Chancellor, former Dean, and our distinguished speaker, and colleagues, this morning, and to the students. I especially appreciate your being here and still being here. That's important when we have these opportunities, that we acknowledge the importance and the significance of having this distinguished scholar here, and academic leader here on campus with us. As I sat and as we went through the words of lift every voice and sing, and we talk about let us march on till victory is won. We really have to keep marching on till victory is won. I think we are reminded of that challenge that we face, and how when we look at the victories of those who came before us and who come before us, that becomes inspiration to us. I'm just meeting Dr. Schexnider this morning, but I, in some ways, stand on his shoulders. As a graduate of another Big Ten institution, my PhD is from Purdue University, and as a political scientist before going over to student affairs. So that's my foundation. That's where I began my career, and this absolutely resonates with me as someone who comes from that profession. It's still my first love. I'm just hanging out over in administration, but I'll always connect as a political scientist. So thank you for being here this morning. Thank you for bringing this to this campus and to our student body and to our colleagues. Thank you, Dr. Cade, for the opportunity to co-sponsor this. Yes. And I think this is something that we should continue. I'm sitting here just saying this, but I'm going to say it. The Division of Student Affairs would welcome and welcomes the opportunity to work with academic units to bring distinguished scholars and speakers here. So please, I think this is a series, I'm just speaking it into existence. A series that we could begin here, a distinguished lecture series at Southern University that would be co-sponsored with the Division of Student Affairs and the Division of Academic Affairs, or however we want to do that. So I'm saying that on the record on Zoom. We have it. So it is recorded, and this is the start of something that we believe that is very important in Southern, that is important for our student body. I thank you for the questions that the students asked. And what I want to say is that as students, I know that students had to go to class and had to go to other lunch class and schedules that exist. But for those of you who are here to the end, I want you to give yourselves a hand. Yeah. Give yourself because that's the most important thing that you have to that you will understand as you go older. Some of the biggest blessings in your life will come when you do things that nobody told you to do and that you were not expected to do, that someone will notice that you did. That's like staying here. Absolutely. Someone will notice that you did. You weren't told to do it. You weren't expected to do it, but you did it. Someone sees that and decides that this is someone who's very serious about what they're trying to do. I'm going to give that student an opportunity because I know that I can trust that student's judgment, that they can be trusted. Not that the ones I know we had class, don't go out and tell the students that, as Dr. Walton said, you guys, no, people had class, lunch, and other things. And that's why they left. I know that's why they left. But I appreciate those of you who were able to stay for staying. That is important. It is noticed, and we appreciate you. Thank you again, Dr. Snyder. Thank you, Dr. Tyler.
We want to thank all family members who brought their students over. We appreciate you so much, and Dr. Renee and everyone else. But before we leave, Dr. Schexnider, as you get set up to sign your books, I have a special gift that was given to me, and I'm going to give it to one of you. I just want one student to tell me why celebrating Black History Month is important to you. One student. Come forward. Think I'm giving you 1 minute. What it look like? Oh, got a hand ready. Don't even take minutes.
My name is Sean Hurst. I'm a sophomore, major in planning soil science. And one of the greatest reasons Black History Month is important to me, celebrate, is to look back and see what people have sacrificed. Sacrificed lives, jobs, money, family. And that way, when we study the history, we can see, okay, how can we better prepare for the future? Yes, ma'am. So that's one of the greatest reasons I love to celebrate Black History.
What's your name again?
Deshaun Hurst.
Give it up for Deshaun. Be this weekend and you have a Visa gift card.
Nice. It was to speak up, doesn't it?
Pardon?
It pays to speak up.
It pays to speak up. So you can enjoy some king cake if you want. Come and get the book signed if you want to purchase a book. $29.95, I believe.
$30.
$30, okay. If there is one student that's gonna read this book, I'm gonna buy it for you. If you're gonna read it, I'm gonna buy it for you. Steve D. Kite.
And we also share the same fraternity membership.
Oh,
All right.
Yes, yes, yeah. Morris Brown College. Yeah, we just grabbed. But yep, Morris Brown. Where do you from?
I do not. Yeah, $30, basically.
Yeah, but I pledged in 81. Yeah, but I'm pledged to but about the ground. I got it.
Okay.
I didn't know they had it. All right. I'm very simple. I use my credit card as my comic here. It's my comic service. That's fine. No, thank you.
Are you?
20.
Yeah.
No.
It's 30.
You know things. I got 30 years.
The homeboy.
Yeah. Really? Well, okay. And what? But am I showing? And I come. Okay. Oh, yes. Yeah. Walter.
I spoke at Thursday on Monday, and we targeted for that.
Okay. Okay, Dr. LaGrange. Dr. Tamika LaGrange. Well, we met. She's from, so I was gonna come here. I was from Savannah State. And so she's from, well, I'm not sure, I know she went to Savannah State.
Yeah.
Yeah, her degree is from Savannah State. Yeah, and so she, yeah, but she, I met her. Okay. Yeah, we met a couple of times. I don't know if she remembers, we have met. We met with that's all. So you're here in the chamber. Wait, so now when you was Adams at Northwood, when you Adams did people advance. Yes. At Savannah State. So we were doing things. No, he's at Sagan. Yeah. It's a big people American. But yeah, so he, yeah, we were colleagues in the United States. Yeah. Jolly. Yeah. Jolly Prince. And he passed it when he you go, he came to Spanish, say this back in, he got her, he got the keyboard. And he passed it. But yeah, good education. All right. Thank you.
Nice speech, What's your name? Cameron Dowling. Nice to meet you. I got a 5 here. Maybe 40 good. Yes, sir. So, get her name. Yes, sir. Cameron. K-A-M-E-R-O-E. Yes, sir. K-A-M-E-R-O-E. Dowling, D-O-W-L-I-N-G. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, sir. Yes, sir. Political science. So I plan to go to grad school, get my master's. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it. We'll see.
The lady in the head said she was about me to about actually.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. L-I-Y. A-H. Alexander. Oh my God, you gotta hear him trying to do this stuff. Yes, right. Yes, sir. No psychology. I'm gonna open my own private practice. I know black women and music. Thank you so much. Make a house. Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the